I welcome everyone to Exceller Books author interview session, and I'm thrilled to have Aron Gersh with us, the author of an intriguing book, Cycles of My Life. Thank you, Mr. Aron, for joining us today, and we are really grateful to have you in this show. Before diving right into the interview, I would really like to brief about you, who is Aron Gersh. I think everyone is willing to know, and then I will be telling a few words about his work that for which he has written this book. So, Aron Gersh is a fulfilled author and an experienced cyclist with a passion for sharing life's wisdom through the lens of cycling. His experience on the open road have inspired his latest book, Cycles of My Life, which combines insightful reflections on life's journey, delightful with sketches that capture the essence of cycling. So I think that it is very clear to our audience that who is Aron Gersh, that in short, he is a very experienced cyclist and he has earned the life lesson through the medium of cycling. So I would like you to tell a few words about why cycle. Why have you selected the metaphor cycle in your book?
Thanks, Tanisha. Did you write that?
Yeah.
Oops, thank you. Well, let me first say that in the book I'm mainly saying that life is many journeys, and so you and I are about to go on one of them, and I think what fits in with the relevance to the book is that one of the things I said in the book, that sometimes it's important to go on other people's journeys. You see, as a cyclist, you train on certain roads and you never go anywhere else until you meet up with somebody else and they say, hey, come with me on our journey. And then you go with them on their journey and you see some really surprising things. So I invite you today I know you've invited me and I really appreciate that. I thank Exceller, the excellent publishing company, which I'm very pleased to be part of, by the way. But I'm inviting you now to come on my journey, and hopefully you will see things that you don't normally see on your journey.
Absolutely. I would be really happy to know more about your journey and will like to reflect that on my journey.
Sure. Just repeat your first question to me.
Yeah, so your book, Cycles of My Life, uses cycling as a metaphor for life's journey, right? So can you tell us what inspired you, to write a book on this?
Got you. So I think that answer has got two parts actually, and I think it might take some time to answer both, because the way the question was written to me was, why this unique approach with cycling? So the use of metaphor, excuse me, the use of metaphors is not unique, but the use of metaphors in cycling, that is a unique approach. The thing about metaphors, you see, I did study metaphors some while ago, at least the basics of metaphors. It's a very interesting study. And I also taught, I once taught a course to about 10 people, how we think in metaphors. And, the basic thing about metaphors is that they take something from one domain of life and they use the words from this domain and translate it to that domain. And it's quite amazing how we can compare anything to anything. The human brain is amazing. When I was teaching these people, I asked them, all right, I asked them to compare a lot of things. I said, just throw out two things. You throw out one thing, you throw out another thing. So one person threw out tools, spanners, hammers, and things like that. The other person threw out butterflies. Now there's a challenge. Compare tools to butterflies. I mean, what can they possibly have in common? I thought, no, nobody's going to get this. I can't get it. Someone in the group was brilliant. They said, these two things are the end result of a long process of evolution. You know, in evolution, that one of the
Mhm.
last things that came in evolution was the making of tools. And one of the last
Yeah.
things that comes in the development of an animal is that a butterfly comes out of this. So it was quite amazing. But anyway, the point is that metaphors actually are part of our everyday speech.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Right.
so I think we don't actually realize it, and in order for us to think more clearly, certainly in normal speech, and certainly even in philosophy, in deep philosophy, psychology, um, and where else in science, even scientists who are trying to be very objective, often have to use metaphors to describe what they are doing, and if we don't understand, well, let's put it this way. If we do understand how metaphors work and how they're structured and how we can use them, we can talk more intelligently about them. So that's I'm mad about metaphors, and the point is that when two people talk like we're talking now, I can guarantee you that every 5 minutes we're throwing out a lot of metaphors are we're catching it.
Yes.
We're using
Yes.
them. We need to catch them if we want to talk about them.
Yes.
When
We
I
are
say catch
connecting.
them, when I say catch them, I mean that metaphorically. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about catching a ball, but that's how we talk.
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
we cannot escape. We cannot
Mhm.
escape using metaphors. And what is fascinating as well is that when you look up word origins really often come from metaphorical thinking. Like the word escape is I think it's 13th century word, if I remember correct. It it it's about a cape. A
Yeah.
cape is a jacket or a mantle,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the image that was something like when you grab a guy, you're trying to trap him. You grab him because it was
Mhm.
cold in Europe, I guess. This is English language. You grab a guy by the cape, and what he does is he gets out of the cape. He goes out of the cape, and that's how the word escape originated. And
Oh, yeah. I didn't know this. Yeah.
well,
I didn't.
believe me, I mean it's not a sort of thing you know. And the funny, and I actually read that somewhere in somewhere in the English language, they actually didn't use the word escape for a while. They used the word outscape. Get
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
your cape. Anyway,
Right.
so the point is there's metaphors everywhere, and we need to.
Mhm.
It really is useful to try and do them more intelligently. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is that um, people tend to people tend to think metaphors is just picturesque speech. You're not
Yeah.
really saying anything more than the literal. You're just painting it in a pretty picture. And an example of this. I mean, I don't read that much non-fictional literature, but an example I found is the author Frank Norris um, wrote, "It was so hot that the shadows shrank under the bushes." you know
Okay.
so that's very picturesque, but really what he's saying is it was so hot in the midday sun. you know now you can argue, has he really added anything to the language by being he's just painting a picture, and it doesn't really tell us very much. We might as well just be literal. um, Another example is she's wearing a hat as dated as a calendar. you know and I mean it's beautiful, but it's kind of like, hey, she's wearing a really old-fashioned hat. And
Yeah.
arguably you can say the it doesn't really give us any more, but by adding the
Yeah.
picture, although it is fun, but then slowly you start getting metaphors that seem to add more. Like one other I found by an author named H.C. Whitwer, who I've never heard of. I just looked this up. He said he used the quote, "As inquisitive as an X-ray." A person, this person was as inquisitive as an X-ray,
Yeah.
and and you could just say, well, she's very inquisitive, but it's kind of
Mhm.
gives you a little bit of a deeper picture because this person is trying to see right into you. It's deeper than that. But I'm going to go even deeper. So there's a series of books called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Have you heard of them?
Yeah,
Chicken
yeah, yeah.
Soup.
It's a very
It's the
famous
Chicken
book.
Soup series. They're
Yeah,
one of the most published books in the world, and
yeah.
they tell inspiring stories. And
Mhm.
I haven't looked at one for a long time, but there's one I always remember about a woman who had just given birth to a child, or she had a child. She was talking about her pregnancy and her childbirth, and she was saying she can't fit into her clothing anymore, since the baby was born.
Yeah,
And she was saying, I couldn't fit into my clothing, but my role as a mother fitted me like a glove. Now, I mean, to me,
beautiful.
that's pow.
Mhm.
That is talking. You know, that is really talking. It touches you. It touches me anyway, and I hope it touches you. It's like it feels as if it's saying it's not just picturesque speech. It's really saying something deep. Another example, and this was I just happened to see this last night in a poem. It's a longer poem, but the lines in there is something about being listened to like a rock listens to the sea, like a rock listens to the sea.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. And I mean, I think that's very powerful because, well, I'm hoping that maybe I'm already feeling a bit of this in relationship to you, Tanisha. I feel as if
Already,
you're
yes.
sitting there like a rock, and I'm throwing waves at you. I'm coming at you in waves. I think it probably when it would refer to something like emotions, like you're
Mhm.
listening to me if I'm talking very
Yeah.
emotionally and standing there like a rock. Um, it's a very powerful image. So, although these are more powerful images, they can, in a way, still be expressed literally. But now, the third and most important point is that there are some things about human experience that simply cannot be expressed literally, you know,
Mhm.
and inner experiences, and the only way you can express them is through metaphor. And what
Yes,
I
correct.
love about this is that science and laboratory-based university psychologists, they have a hard time trying to study these inner experiences, because to be scientific, you have to look at everything you can see, and if you can't see and measure it, it
Mhm.
doesn't exist. But there's things inside us that only we can measure, ourselves, or maybe people who can see that in us, um, which might be a unique seeing in us, can measure these things. So, metaphor is a real keyhole to our souls. And that's a really important sentence for me. Metaphor is a
Yeah.
keyhole to our souls. And I mean, one example is like the metaphor, I feel deeply touched inside, you know. Now, deeply touched inside, there is no other way to say that. There is no literal way to say that.
Yeah.
It does not mean I came with a scalpel and cut open your
No,
belly and
no.
put my hands inside and wiggled into your intestines. So, the thing about body and mind, it's like this. You could have this idea that metaphors are of the mind and the literal is of the body, but that is it's totally so that goes into the whole body mind philosophy thing, and which is another. stupid philosophical distinction, the physical and the mental. It's not that, because being deeply touched inside is very physical. It's just not
Absolutely.
physical in the same way that touching you on your skin is physical. And
Mhm.
and just by the way, I wrote in 1990, I published a book called Deeply Touched Inside, which was
Okay.
the subtitle was Metaphors of Sex and Love. And the simple thing was simply saying, look, before you touch me on my skin, have you
Mhm.
touched me inside? So I was using all the physical things of sex as a metaphor of the inside, as it were. And that
Mhm.
was, in a way, that writing that book, in publishing it in 1990, self-publishing it, was was some of this beginning of using the
Mhm.
metaphors up in the world.
I would like to say that was a fascinating perspective, that you have viewed metaphor in such a different, diverse way, and that's really appreciable. So, in your book, you mentioned that the importance of choosing cycling companion is very important. Okay, like
The
with
importance
whom
of
you
choosing
are.
who you cycle with.
Yeah, cycling
Yeah,
companions is very important,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like with whom
yeah,
you are, you are going to the journey of your life. It's very important to select them very deeply.
yeah,
So can
yeah.
you elaborate on the concept and how does it apply to life beyond cycling?
So the peloton is a group that you ride with in cycling,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the fact about a peloton is that you'll go faster with the peloton than you go alone, because the reason in cycling is because it's wind resistance. The people at the front take all the wind and actually help the people behind. And so you can go faster in the group. But you've got to ride in harmony with the group.
Mm-hmm.
And if you bring
Yeah.
yourself down, if you do something stupid, even if you don't touch anybody else, but you fall, you're likely to make quite a lot of people fall. So that's saying to you in life, like in your organization, like if in Exceller somebody really brings themselves down, destroys their own life somehow, it becomes almost like they can bring some of the group down. um,
Yeah, right.
so that was what that was about. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, you're right. So,
Yeah,
in life, we live in a group basically. No one can live individually. So
sure.
we always live in a group, in a family. So whenever there is a problem to a particular member of the family, so the travel goes to the entire family. So everyone of us are very tensed and everything how to overcome. So in that case, you're right that you have given the example of accelerator.
I see you're in a family.
We are, and you're also part of our family now.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, your book features 30 sketches, okay,
Yeah.
related to cycling. So, how
Mm.
do this illustration enhance the reader's experience, and what role do they play in conveying your message?
Yeah, well, the thing about metaphors is basically in metaphors, you can translate any domain to any other domain. But
Mhm.
the most metaphors that we use are actually from a very physical three-dimensional domain to a so-called psychological or inner or mental domain. And therefore it makes it possible to make pictures of it that give you a visual image of it. So like that first picture, basically says, look, if you've lived your life well, and rode the uphills. Pictures are three-dimensional. That first picture is, if you've lived your life well, then you will end up on a higher place where that you started. And from the higher place, you'll be able to look back and see all the wonderful things, and there'll be memories in your life that you did. So that picture shows a cyclist on a higher level looking back over the road that he's just come, and we put in a barn and a windmill and a cow or something. I can't remember. But that's I think that answers the question. That's just like they do enhance the experience, So riding together in a peloton and there's one picture of riding alone, and I love those pictures, by the way. I hope you do. Do you?
Absolutely, we loved it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
honestly, I would say that you have written beautiful poems, so there is no doubt on it. But since you have given these beautiful illustrations, it really enhances the experience of reading as well, because it gives a visual illustration in mind. So I think that's brilliant that you have like decided to give some illustration in your poems.
Yeah, the I think without you can imagine that book that without that it wouldn't be half as good a book. It would be 1/10 as good. Just a
Absolutely.
book with words. So it is a delightful book, even if I say so myself. But
Yes, right. So your book promises insight about life and inspiration for improving our life's journey. Can you share
mm.
one key or piece of wisdom from your book that readers can apply to their own life today?
Yes, thanks, Tanisha. One example I was thinking of when I saw that question, I mean, there's many, but sometimes we feel out of balance in life.
Mhm. We do.
And you need on a bicycle, you need to be balanced to go.
Mhm.
When you start off, it's unbalanced, and by going, it slowly gets the balance. And by saying that we feel unbalanced really means there's too much heaviness on one side, which might mean we've got
Yeah.
a big problem or something that pulls us down one side.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean
Mhm.
it doesn't mean there's no existence in the lighter side of things in us. But the point is, what I was saying in the book in yoga or something, they'll probably tell you to be still, to try and gain your balance, stand still. And I was saying from cycling says move slowly, you know. You don't have
Mhm.
to you don't have to be riding perfectly as you always ride, because you're feeling out of balance.
Mhm.
Just go slowly, move forward, do something, you know and you'll start feeling you
Mhm.
get some of your balance back.
See, I can see the book behind you. This I my life about the book that we are discussing right now. So yeah, so we're almost at the end of our interview session today. So I would really like you to read some of your very important or the poems that are very like own to your heart. So I would really like you to read some
Oh,
poems
would
from your
you?
book.
Okay. Well, then I'm not in my own home. My main home is in Cape Town. I've got things more organized there. So yeah, I had to find a way of sticking this on the wall, which kind of worried me because this is
That's
the
a
only
brilliant
copy I
idea.
have, and I hope that the
Yeah, I
sellotape
think
doesn't
that's a
ruin
brilliant
it.
idea.
Well, yeah, it's as long as it doesn't ruin the book anyway. I'm just thinking, what would be, what would be.
Can you please show this book to our audience? Then they can see how does your book look.
Oh, yeah, yeah, like that. Yeah, that's about the
Yeah.
strength of the
So,
pack. That is riding with others. And then what I was saying to you was sometimes you need to ride alone. So there you
mhm.
are riding
Right.
alone. And yeah, I just love these
Yeah, yeah.
drawings.
I
Um,
just wanted to ask you, like, who drew this illustration? Is it you or someone else?
no, a friend of mine. A friend of
Okay,
mine.
so please convey congratulations to him as well, him or her. I don't know. So
Sure,
this illustration
yes. Yeah.
is great,
So shall I
actually.
read? Shall I read something?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Please.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read about getting lost.
Okay.
Getting lost can be distressing. I no longer feel I know what my destination is. Perhaps I no longer feel I know my way home, know my way back to me as I know me. So I end up not knowing how to go forward nor how to go back. But in wandering lost, I am guaranteed to see sights I would not normally see, perhaps see sights that no one would normally see. If I keep my eyes open, I might be able to avoid any dangers and might very well discover gold. Eventually, I may find my way home again or decide to make a new home in a new place with a new me that I am more content with. You know, this was inspired by the many times that I've been lost riding around on mountain bikes in the country and getting lost. You always come across amazingly surprising things. But of course, being lost inside yourself can be distressing, but nevertheless, there are things you can discover when you're lost. Okay.
Yeah, so
I don't.
that's great actually. Aaron, we are almost at the end of our interview session, and this is a wrap up question for you. So, throughout the interview, we have learned a lot of things from you, Aaron, and I'm really grateful to interview you today because you're a senior person and there's a lot of things to learn from you. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to interview you.
Thanks,
So that
Viraj.
was a really yeah, so that was a really valuable lesson for me, and I also think for all of us watching this video. So, uh, can you share can you elaborate the concept, why cycling? Why have you selected cycling? You could have selected bird, tree, anything, but why cycling?
Well, simply because I'm a cyclist, and as I say, I probably, I probably could develop a different book, but I'm not for instance, a sailing man or an architectural student. I'm sure, I would challenge an architectural student to, what would life be like if each of us was like a different kind of building. Could make a kind of interesting book, and they could also put in architectural pictures. But it's just simply because I've been a cyclist all my life. I think they know I cycled across America in 26 days in 1999, from the west to the east, 355 miles, averaging 135 miles a day. It was a supported ride. I mean, I just had to ride. I didn't carry anything. Um, but cycling is me. It's part of my identity. It's part of who I am. And I think when I was born, actually, I came out of my mother's womb with a little bicycle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm intending to go to my grave on my bicycle. That means when I die at the age of 99, I'm going to cycle up not to my funeral. I'm going to cycle on my bicycle and then just flop into the grave.
So I just wanted to ask you one another thing that when can we expect another book from you? Like, are you planning to publish your next writing, the next surprises?
Oh boy, I am, sweetie, and I will contact Exceller, but the book is about eating.
Oh, that's my favorite subject.
Yeah, well, it's most of our favorite subjects. That is my next book, Tanisha.
Thank you for sharing this secret with us.
Yeah,
We are delighted to know this. Okay, so Aaron, we have almost covered all the perspective from your book, why you have
sure.
selected as a metaphor and about the journey of life. And I think you have really inspired not only me that I have just told, but to all our audience who are watching this video right now. So thank you for being with me today, Mr. Aron Gersh, and I hope this book can inspire readers to embrace this life's journey with a renowned, renew their spirit of living, and they can enjoy life because there is only one life, and we can live up to its highest height.
Yeah, very happy to be with you guys. I will be approaching you when that book is ready. And thank you for. I really appreciate this interview. I love talking about metaphors, so I've really enjoyed it. And again, I thank Tanisha for listening like a rock to an ocean, to ocean waves going at her. And yeah, look forward to our continued cooperation.